Hello and welcome back to the Sportsway Podcast. I am your host, Bryson Amrine. VB could not make it today. He has a baseball game tonight, so best of luck to him. We have something very special happening for our Spotify listeners. We have a YouTube channel now. There should be some video on there, as well as Instagram Reels should be up as shortly. Um, so anyway, with VB's absence, we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. Usually I would ask him what's on his mind or stuff like that around the edge like that. So we're going to jump right into this. Patrick Mahomes secures his second Super Bowl over the Eagles with the final score of 38-35. Some controversy we will get into in a little bit. Mahomes wins MVP, even though I think he was the second best quarterback on the field that night. Jalen Hurts outperformed him. Um, so yeah, Mahomes was 21 of 27, 182 yards, three touchdowns to no picks. Hurts was 27 of 38, 304 yards, 70 yards rushing, a touchdown through the air, and then three touchdowns rushing with no picks. My takeaway from the Eagles is that QB sneak, which they are talking about banning or not banning, but changing is unstoppable, and they're just really good at it, and there's nothing nobody can do. And it was a really good Super Bowl, and that play was unstoppable. And as a Chiefs fan, I would have gotten so annoyed watching that play over and over again, as they just kept running it on fourth down, third and short, fourth and short. But really, my first half takeaway was the Eagles dominated, and it wasn't really even close. Um, and I wish VB was here because he was watching. Obviously, was watching the game. Everybody was, but he texted me throughout the game, and he was like, "This is a really good Super Bowl, and it's going to come down to the end, and it's going to be an amazing game." And I think that it did, and a lot of people are going to talk about the play, which we will get into in a second. Um, but it was a really good Super Bowl, regardless of how it ended and what happened to end it. But the Eagles dominated the first half. They went up 10, and I was like, okay, well, Mahomes is hurt. That was right. The halftime was right before he got hurt. Um, or you know what I'm trying to say. And then he came out. He had an hour or so, even more, to get healed, healthy, at least enough to where he could come out and perform like he did in the second half. And from the get-go, the Chiefs dominated. I think the score in the third quarter was 7-3, but the defense dominated for the Chiefs. Mahomes' offense woke up, and it wasn't really even a game at that point. I mean, obviously the Eagles put up a fight, but I knew the Chiefs were going to win. And then that controversial play. I mean, James Bradbury, it, he came out and said it. He held Juju in the post-game press conference. To me, it could have gone either way. I mean, yeah, there's angles where it could have been a hold, and I think if James Bradbury doesn't come out and say that, I think Eagles fans have every right to defend that. But with your player coming out and defending um, his play, like saying that it was holding and it did happen, I think it's very tough for Eagles fans to sit there and argue and talk about how, well, there wasn't holding, no, yeah, this, when your cornerback that made the play happen obviously came out in a press conference and said that. My player of the game, honestly, it could have been Hurts or it could have been Devontae Smith. He had 7 catches for 100 yards. It felt like 4 or 5 of them were in the first drive. So ultimately, he just dominated. And I mean, the Eagles should have won that game. As a Cowboys fan, I hate to say that, but the Eagles really should have won that game because they just outplayed the Chiefs in every way. Maybe besides special teams, because obviously Kadarius Toney had that big return that set up that one of those scores late in the game in the fourth. So I mean, yeah, we're gonna sit here and talk about this Super Bowl and what could have been, how it could have changed, but I think the Eagles really dominated throughout the game, and as I said in the very beginning of this, Mahomes was not the best quarterback on the field. It was Jalen Hurts, and I think regardless of who wins or loses, the Super Bowl MVP should be the best player in the Super Bowl, and I think Hurts should have got the award because he was 27. Again, he was 27 of 38, 304 yards, 70 yards rushing, 4 total touchdowns, a touchdown through the air, and 3 rushing touchdowns. Um, he was just unbelievable, and it was really fun to watch the Super Bowl. from an outsider's perspective, not having any input or care in the world at who obviously was playing in this game. So yeah, that really was a Super Bowl. And then I mean, it was a really good game. It was honestly top five in my opinion of all time. I know that's probably going somewhere, but in my lifetime, I have not seen that good of a game in a long time in a Super Bowl, nonetheless. So we're gonna transition over into the All-Star game, which I think is stupid. Despite Tatum scoring 55 points, it was kind of a Mickey Mouse kind of game. I turned it off and on. I mean, I had it going. Um, Between the XFL games, which we will get into in a second, and then just the All Star game. But it really wasn't fun. It's not competitive, and I don't. I mean, you had players like Jaylen Brown, Nikola Jokic, Mike Malone, um, talking about how it wasn't basketball. It wasn't very good basketball. It wasn't fun basketball. It kind of was stupid, just to put it quite frankly. I mean, it was not fun to watch whatsoever. I know they were playing for charity, but I mean, how many of those guys are thinking about charity when they're out there? I'm not even really going to say competing in that All Star game. They were just jogging around. That's why I said Tatum's 55 points were Mickey Mouse, because half the time it wasn't really even basketball. It was just wide open because they weren't playing defense. Like they would let him dunk it, like they would let him shoot. They would like they weren't like it was just and I get it from a fan's perspective. You want to see the best players out there. You want to see the very best talent. But to me, that was not good. And you have actual NBA players that played in the game, and you have a coach that coached for the game come out and say that that wasn't good basketball. And I heard on Twitter, I saw something. Um, it was like, how do you fix this possibly? And it was like a thread, and it was like maybe a one-on-one competition on Saturday, or um, something like that. Like just change it up because you've got guys. Now I get it. Dunk contest, John Morant. They're trying to get John Morant, Anthony Edwards, those kind of guys. Um, it, it is interesting, but none of those guys want to play because it really is just you have to go from you're getting there maybe on Thursday or Friday to then going to compete in an all-star competition or a three-point competition, which Damian Lillard competed in the three-point competition, Tatum competed, but the dunk contest takes a lot more effort than the three-point competition. So I think I honestly would like to see a one-on-one competition, like King of the Court kind of style, um, stuff like that, and it doesn't even have to be anything too crazy. Just get people that want to go out and compete, because a guy like Cam Thomas, who dropped 40 points in 3 games in a row. You just put like Harden in there, people that aren't all stars, that are very good basketball players in that one-on-one competition, and it'll just make it so much better. Now I'm not saying Harden might want to do it, but I mean a one-on-one on a Saturday is better than the skills challenge, because I've not heard once in my lifetime somebody say, "Oh, that skills challenge was very good." I've heard somebody say that three-point competition was good and the dunk competition was good. Um, I would really like to get back to those Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine type esque dunk competition days, but it hasn't gotten there, and it's not going to be there. Mac McClung kind of brought it back. That was one of the better dunk competitions in a long time, but it's still not there because you've got Jericho Sims doing the same dunk twice and getting a higher score than somebody that was in the finals. Like, to put that into perspective, he got a better score, I think, on the first one that he stuck his arm in and he did the double elbow, and it was, I mean, we've seen that before. Vince Carter did it. I mean, you've seen a lot of people just try to recreate that. Um, and so, yeah, it was interesting. The final round, Mac McClung did the 720. He's been doing that since high school, though. Just those kind of dunks. Um, but yeah, no, I really, really was disappointed in the All Star weekend, and I have been the past couple years. But when I was younger, maybe like 15, 16, I mean, I loved watching the All Star. Even before that, I loved watching the All Star events. Steph Curry in the 3-point competition, Klay Thompson in the 3-point competition. I kind of got the feel like Damian Lillard. I really like Lillard there. I really like Tatum. Halliburton dropped 31 in his first round, so it was a good 3 point and dunk competition, but I think you need to find something to replace the skills challenge because it really doesn't make sense and it really doesn't fit the. I mean, I could see how it fits, but it really doesn't fit the mold of what people are attracted to in the All Star game. So that's what I would do. I mean, I would have a one-on-one competition. I would. I mean, I could see a precision passing be something like you have to hit targets. Honestly, a layup competition, like or not, a layup contest, kind of like the dunk contest, like the coolest layups, because you have guys that can't really do those cool dunks like Mac McClung and all those people. So like do something like you could do like like sick layup competition, something like that, other than just having a skills challenge where you've got rookies, the hometown team, and then Antetokounmpo brothers. Um, so speaking of that Saturday night, I was switching back and forth between the XFL and the, or I guess it was Sunday. It was Saturday and Sunday. I was switching back and forth between the All Star Skills Challenges and the game to the XFL. It kicked off this past weekend, and it was very good football. Um, I'm sad VB is not here because I would be. I have texted him multiple times about this. I've texted some of my other friends about this. The XFL was very interesting. You had 4 games this weekend. The Renegades versus the Vipers, which ended the Renegades won 22-20. The Roughnecks versus the Guardians, which ended 33-12, which the Roughnecks won. Apologies. The Battlehawks, led by AJ McCarron and the Bahamas, San Antonio. The Battlehawks won 18-15, and then the Defenders took on the Sea Dragons, which ended 22-18. My 3 or 4 takeaways from this, I liked everything about it. The Rock and the 2 other people, I'm blanking on their names, have really set this out and really tried to make this league work. This could possibly be a league that sticks. I know the USFL is still a thing and is still out there and it's kicking off after the XFL, but I think the XFL is going to be way bigger and better than anything the USFL has to offer. Um, you've got guys like Ben DiNucci trying and leading his team. They lost. You've got guys like De'Aaron King getting an opportunity, Jordan Teamu getting another opportunity. You got AJ McCarron, his second crack at football, led the Battlehawks down. I think it was 15-3, and came back and won. They converted a 3-point play after they scored, and then they converted a 4th and 15, and they took his team down to score with just seconds to go. So I mean, it really was interesting to watch. It was more interesting than the NBA All Star game, I could tell you that. The Defenders and Sea Dragons were on. Josh Gordon had a 77-yard receiving game. It was very good. Very glad to see him back in football. So I mean, just kind of going back off this, the XFL, it has had its struggles in the past. It's had its definite problems in the past. But I mean, you just look at it from an outsider's perspective. It just started. There's a lot of good stuff happening with this, and so I mean, I really do think this was a very good thing to have happen for spring football. And they're not trying to compete with the NFL, which I really like. It'll have its own set of boundaries, and I'm pretty sure later on he said somewhere The Rock said that they were going to try and make it a developmental league for the NFL. Like the NFL are going to try to have open conversations about this becoming obviously a developmental league for the teams. And I could see the XFL and the USFL combining. The only problem is you're going to have to switch up the teams because they have Houston. They have, I think there was another New York team. There was some just cities that didn't have or already had a team in the XFL because I think the USFL will ask to merge so they don't go down under. But what I really do like about the XFL is they have 2 or 3 teams at least that do not have a professional team for football. They have the St. Louis Battlehawks, who don't have a professional team at all, or besides the Cardinals. They have San Antonio, who just has the Spurs, and I think they racked up the most attendance. I think maybe the Defenders had a little more, but it could be um, something that changes. So they had St. Louis, Seattle, and then Orlando. They had the Defenders, Washington hasn't had a good football team in a long time, so that's good. They have a good fan base out there. And same with the Seattle Sea Dragons. Seattle's had a very good fan base for every sport possible, and they really only have two major sports teams. Um, and one of them, you can argue, is very, very it's 50-50 now that Russell Wilson left, but the Mariners haven't been anything. They made the playoffs last year, but wild card. But I mean, I think Seattle's fan base is one of the best in the whole world. Besides, obviously, some teams up north. I think Toronto has a very, very strong fan base for all their teams. And so, I mean, it was a very, very good weekend for football and basketball. Regardless of how bad the game was, the ratings were up. People were watching. People were going to the games. There wasn't any really empty stadiums. I mean, yeah, you look at it. The Renegades had 12,000 people, and they averaged 20,000 the first go around before COVID. But I think it's going to take people a little bit to get used to this, and people actually start watching the games, and for them to realize that it is good football. The next thing I want to talk about is the PGA. Tiger Woods. He finished one under. He shot a 69 in round one, 74 in round two, 67 in round three, and then a 73 in round four. He's back. He was going into round four. I think he was four under, which for him, his first tournament back, his first major, not major, but like big start in a golf tournament in a long time. That meant something to him. You could tell it really meant something to him. You could tell he was really trying to show up for the fans, and it really it was really fun to watch him. I only watched him really during school. I didn't watch him any other time, but I watched him throughout the school day, and he was in the marquee group, the featured group, with Thomas and Rory, to start day one on Thursday, and he was playing good golf because they were playing good golf. And when he is there and he is competing, the game of golf is just better off. And I'm excited for Tiger. I'm excited to see what he has going for him. So yeah, that was the first episode on YouTube. This should be the 18th episode. Hopefully VB can come in here next time and join me because this will be an every occurrence thing now. We're gonna try to have YouTube every day, or not every day, every episode for our podcasts from here on out. And so yeah, this has been exciting, and I'm glad y'all got to join on the ride alongside with me. So yeah, it's been very fun. Thank y'all for watching and listening.